This is Dr. Ben Goertzel. I'm speaking to you from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and it's my pleasure to talk to you a bit about consciousness, physics, spirituality, intelligence, and a whole bunch of related ideas. I'm a scientist fundamentally. My PhD was in math, and I've done a lot of work in various areas of science, including biology, computer science, robotics, a bit of physics, computational finance. Science is a powerful tool, and it's led us to amazing discoveries as well as amazing inventions, but it's also important to remember the limitations of the scientific paradigm as it exists today. And what I want to talk about today is some of the things that science doesn't deal with very well yet, and how science might be expanded to encompass more aspects of life, the universe, and everything. What is science missing? First of all, there's what Chalmers calls the hard problem of consciousness, awareness. What is this awareness, this consciousness, this experience that we feel? There's also second person experience, the feeling of the presence and awareness of another person that we're interacting with. There's also the foundational philosophical problem of induction. All of science is based on induction, on the assumption that the patterns we've seen in the past will continue into the future. But at bottom, science doesn't give us any reason to believe that will really be the case, that the patterns of the past will continue into the future. There's also various empirical phenomena that are pretty well documented by now, but that science doesn't give us any theoretical basis for dealing with. I'm thinking of precognition, extrasensory perception of various types, remote viewing, even psychokinesis. These phenomena are on the margins of science, but if you look into the research literature, you find tremendous volumes of statistical substantiation that, at least in some contexts, these phenomena can really exist. I'm not saying there is no scientific explanation for these things. I'm almost sure there is, but I wonder in what sense science, as we currently conceive it, is going to have to be expanded to deal adequately with these phenomena. There's also the small matter of values. What's good? What's bad? What should we aspire to? What values are intrinsic in the universe itself? It may be that this is just a matter of personal opinion and something that science shouldn't touch, but I don't think it's quite that simple. I think the matter of values ties in with the issue of complexity and self-organization, which science has begun to deal with in the last few decades, but still doesn't do a very good job of. I think that values self-organize in a mind as a consequence of its own reflection, its interaction with the world, and other factors that we don't yet understand. Between consciousness, second person experience, psychic phenomena, the problem of induction, and values and their self-organization, there's an awful lot of aspects of the universe that science doesn't yet touch, and we haven't even gotten to the really weird stuff like apparent survival of an individual's mind after their death, or apparent reincarnation type phenomena, which, while mysterious and poorly understood, again, if you look at the data, appear to be valid phenomena in some cases and something we need to account for. So if science, for all its tremendous power, is still somewhat limited in the scope of what can it explain, it behooves us to ask what other models might be out there. Beyond the current scientific understanding of the universe, how might we be able to understand this world that we live in, this experience that we have individually and that we share together. Traditional religions do have something to offer, but I don't think they've been generative and productive in the same sense that science has. They've certainly added great value to human individuals and human societies and human culture. But if we take Lakatosian philosophy of research and progress and science and truth, the philosopher of science Imre Lakatos viewed the value of a research program as tied into how progressive and productive it is. And that is a value judgment in itself, to value progression and productivity as opposed to stability and stasis. I do value progress, growth, and productivity, and in that light, I value about science the amazing abundance of new patterns that it generates. I don't really see that in traditional religious and philosophical belief systems. I would like to see a new extension of science, a variation of science, maybe a complement to science, which encompasses the various phenomena that science misses. And I've put some effort in during the last years, really going back decades, trying to create a formal and precise model that might let us explore and understand some of these aspects of the universe that are currently beyond the domain of science. I wrote a paper on this last year, which I called Euryphysics, E-U-R-Y physics, where the word Eury means wide. Europe is a wide land, and Euryphysics is the science or the trans science of the wider universe, the wider world of which our physical universe, our four-dimensional space-time continuum, is a part. How can we think about this wider world? One way to think about it is in terms of the notion of a mathematical space. We can think about our four-dimensional space-time continuum as being embedded in some broader, maybe higher dimensional space. Of course, modern physics does this. String theory and other variations of modern physics view our four-dimensional space-time continuum as being embedded in, say, an 11 or 26-dimensional macro-verse. This is very interesting, but the type of Eurycosm I'm thinking of, the type of broader universe into which I want to think about our four-dimensional space-time continuum as being embedded, is a little different. In advanced physics theories like string theory, you're still looking at the dynamics in this 26-dimensional containing space as being fairly similar to quantum physics dynamics. You're looking at a Lagrangian and a propagator and so forth. The way I'm thinking about it, the Eurycosm, the wider universe, may have a different sort of dynamics than the one we're used to thinking about in physics. The notion of morphic resonance put forth by a thinker named Rupert Sheldrake may be relevant here. Morphic resonance, as Sheldrake has put it forth, is something of a vague term, and I've tried to make it more precise in my paper on Euryphysics. What I think it comes down to is the idea that in the Eurycosm, clusters of interrelated patterns are surprisingly likely to occur. Surprising compared to what you would derive from natural independence assumptions on the different patterns. So you can look at the Eurycosm hypothetically as a sort of pattern space where things that share patterns are then likely to share more and more and more patterns. If you look at the wider universe around this universe that way, as a sort of pattern space in which patterns tend to clump together, if you follow a certain train of thought, you can use that to explain telepathy, precognition, and even to start charting an explanation of things like psychokinesis and survival after death and reincarnation like phenomena. The basis of the idea is quite simple. Things that are distant in this universe may be very closely connected in a containing universe, just as 2 points that are distant on a two-dimensional piece of paper may be right next to each other if you fold the paper up within a higher three-dimensional space. But that basic idea, while an old and a good one, doesn't get you far enough. You really have to dig into what's the topology, the geometry, and the dynamics in this Eurycosmic space outside of our universe. And I think some sort of pattern clustering morphic resonance type law in the Eurycosm may be a good direction to follow. This can tie in with physics in some ways. It can tie in with quantum mechanics, but I think it goes beyond what current physical theories are telling us. Quantum mechanics has the idea of multiple universes and of the complex number probability or the amplitude of an event being a sort of expected value over many possible universes. What the Eurycosm theory suggests is that maybe all the possible universes considered by quantum mechanics should not be equally weighted. Maybe some of the possible universes we consider in thinking about our physical universe have a higher probability than others because of factors to do with the embedding of our universe in this broader universe, this Eurycosm. So one may need to modify quantum physics, for example, by making a different probability measure over possible worlds and incorporating in that probability measure factors regarding morphic resonance in a Eurycosmic universe outside of the four-dimensional space-time continuum that we're used to. Now this is wacky, this is weird. On the other hand, 26-dimensional space-time curled up in a tiny little cylinder is also weird. So I think modern physics has set the bar for weird pretty high, and that given the huge number of important phenomena that current physical theories seem to have no near-term hope of explaining, it's worthwhile considering some more out-there hypotheses, such as a containing macro-universe that has quite different laws than the one that we're living in. This idea does have some resonance with ideas from traditional religions, which have hypothesized worlds beyond this world, which give non-local surprising connections and synchronicities between different events in this world. But I do doubt that once we really have understood how the Eurycosm works, supposing that this theory does make sense, I doubt the ultimate explanation is going to come down to Buddhism or Hinduism or Zoroastrianism or Christianity or Islam or anything that we're currently thinking right now. There's going to be a lot of new things to discover. These ideas may seem so far out there that there's no way to explore them experimentally, but I think that's just a lack of imagination. I mean, a long time ago, outer space seemed like something we could never explore experimentally, and minuscule teeny particles inside atoms, inside molecules, inside cells, inside us, that seemed like something so small we could never explore it experimentally, but only vaguely hypothesize about it. I think there will emerge ways to explore this Eurycosmic space experimentally, and that this is going to teach us a lot. Maybe it will teach us how psychic phenomena work. Maybe it will teach us how our experience works. Perhaps our experience has something to do with aspects of this containing Eurycosmic space, sort of poking into and intersecting this four-dimensional space-time continuum, and perhaps the values that self-organize in our systems have to do with some sort of biasing of events in our universe based on clustering of patterns in the Eurycosmic containing space. Experimentally, how could we explore this in the manner of science? Right now I could toss out some crazy ideas just to show that there are some possibilities there. What actually happens may be quite different than my current speculations. I mean, imagine that we probe the brains of humans and animals to figure out a funny little clump of neurons which allows some people to carry out precognition, remote viewing, telepathy, and so forth. Well, once we understand how that funny clump of neurons work, maybe we can understand how quantum non-locality is working in that funny clump of neurons. Maybe we can use that to put some neurons in a vat, which are capable of doing precognition better than human beings are. What could we discover with that? What could we discover by interfacing our brains with the psychic quantum resonating neurons in a vat? What happens when we can mind upload people by scanning their brains and then copying their state and their dynamics into a digital computer or a quantum computer? If the person who was copied and mind uploaded dies, could you see some reincarnation type dynamics from them into their mind uploaded version? I mean, these things seem crazy, but yet flying into space would have seemed crazy a long time ago. Doing stem cell implants to make your old organs become young and new again would have seemed crazy not that long ago. And particle accelerators, shooting tiny little particles with incredible precision along miles, would have seemed crazy not that long ago. So I don't think we should prejudge what's going to be too weird or too crazy. I think we should look at what are the phenomena of ourselves and our lives. What are the phenomena we experience? What are the phenomena that are documented in papers on consciousness and on psi phenomena and on physics? We should look at everything that's available to us and be open to all manner of hypotheses, and then explore these through experiment and through careful individual and collaborative thinking. I mean, science has brought us an incredibly long way, but I think there may be limits to science in its current form, and to take even more leaps toward understanding in the future, we need to broaden the scope a little further. And that's the spirit in which I've been musing about the Eurycosm and related potentials. If you're curious to read more about this, you can find it online. There's not many hits on Google for Euryphysics, and I'm always eager to discuss these things with interesting people. So I'd like to thank Giulio Prisco for giving me the opportunity to share these out there hypothetical thoughts with an audience, and I look forward to meeting some of you physically or maybe somewhere in the Eurycosm.